All right, we are back with Nick. We're going to talk about some RZB Dark Horse teams for the 2066 season. Some teams that maybe we think could compete that aren't at the top of people's lists. So I'm going to be talking about some AFC teams. Next, we'll be talking about some NFC teams. We're going to start in my division with the Denver Broncos. They're coming off a 5-11 season last year, where their defense was quite bad, giving up 500 points for almost the worst defense in the league. But their offense was good. They put up 400 points, and they've just added a couple of guys on the green page. And one of them is this guy right here. Looks like a great cornerback, defensive back, wherever they want to put him. And they've added this guy in the third round, who looks like an impressive pass rusher, already pretty well developed. And they got this guy on defense too. So they spent time addressing their weaknesses. And they're already sitting on one of the best quarterbacks in the league in the Lycan. I'm assuming it's Lycan and not Lickin. He put up good yards, a few too many interceptions last year. They got weapons. They've got a running back or two. This guy put up 1,200 yards. This guy's a very capable second running back. He could probably start for a lot of teams. They've got somebody at tight end. Their receiving options are not overwhelming, but they've got 250s and a 40. This guy looks like he's more of a big play threat. They didn't use him a whole lot last year. They've got a little bit of a hole on one of their line spots, I think. Well, no, not really a hole, but they got an average guy here at guard. But other than that, they're starting some respectable offensive linemen, and I think they have a chance to turn their defense around significantly with this infusion of the young guys. And they've already got two absolute studs at defensive end. So Bauer is just adding to a strength here. They've got a good linebacker. They got a nose tackle who's getting, he'll be fully developed this year. And linebacker is a bit of a weakness, but they did address that some with Hop here, who I'm assuming is going to stay a linebacker. Looks like he'd be a pretty good defensive end too. Nick hasn't had a chance to preview this team, I don't think, but from what I've shown you here, Nick, what do you make of this roster?
Right. Well, the roster looks really, really strong. I have to say, I'm quite surprised. I mean, normally, your rookies that you bring in, they don't really have a massive impact on a team. But even without the strong draft, they still look very, very strong. I mean, they don't look like a team that went 5-11 last year. They look like a team that made the playoffs last year, don't they? In terms of talent. They
Yeah,
got a quarterback that's been sat there for 10 seasons. Obviously, with the cohesion that comes along with that, there's just not that obvious weak spot, is there? So, I mean, when I'd look at a team like this, I would then want to have a little flick through a few various things and try to work out what went wrong, because talent-wise, they should be doing an awful lot better than what they have done. Have you looked on that side of things yet, or not?
well, the
As to
turnover
why they
margin is going to be crucial here, right? So they're only negative 3 yards, net yards, only negative 3, which is more of a mark of a 500 team, but they're minus
Mm,
8 in net points, and I got to chalk that up to the turnovers.
mm, mm. Penalty count was fairly low.
Right, they're pretty much bottom of the table for turnovers.
Yeah, it's an interesting one. It's an interesting one. Yeah, I mean, it'd be interesting. It would have been interesting to look at their PISAG, whether they were unlucky at all. Yeah, I mean, I'm trying to find some weaknesses. I mean, even You know, I was expecting to say, "Oh, the special teams are going to be horrendous," but they're actually not. They're not too bad. They're probably slightly above average. The penalty count is half decent. I looked at them passing offense, and it looks to me that there's something not flowing quite rightly in when you look at the miscellaneous passing offense. The medium average per attempt is actually lower than the short passing average per attempt. That takes some doing, really. That's not a usual thing.
Well, it might
It
be
doesn't look
down to volume. Look how many times they're throwing medium.
exactly. It doesn't look like a regular Rex game plan. It looks like a game plan that's been written, but it looks to me like a game plan that is actually detracting from the results, as in probably worse than a Rex. That's my gut instinct. It's a game plan that is somewhat flawed. In a way, that's a positive because if they come in with a fresh approach this year, they could be a completely different team.
Yeah, I mean they scored despite being negative 13 in turnovers. They scored above average in points last year, and I know their medium passing wasn't ideal, but they did, they put up 400 points. Offense, I don't think is what was holding them back, even though there is room for improvement.
Yeah, I think they're massively underachieving to where they should be. I mean, they were in terms of average per attempt, they're fifth from bottom in medium passes. And I mean, when you look at the quality of the team, I do think that's just an area where they could really make up some ground. Their short passing was actually excellent. It was second in the league average per attempt. But yeah, just sort of trying to work out what's going on with this team because on face value it looks very good and very strong. Yeah, it's an interesting team. So, what are you predicting this year? What do you think they could be achieving?
Well, I mean they were, what was it, 8-8 the last couple of years before this. It seems like they weren't particularly unlucky. The Pythag said they were minus zero point 0.2, so that was about what they should have been. But I mean, I think they could be turning this back into this 8, 10, 11 win range like they'd been the years before. They've been averaging about, probably about 9 wins in here. Um, and I think that's pretty reasonable. And all it takes is a chance once you get in the playoffs. If you can get into the playoffs with 9 wins, like, a team did last year, then suddenly you're in the playoffs. And
Hmm.
now you're a dark horse in the playoffs instead of a dark horse in the regular season.
So, these turnovers obviously they were key. Where were they coming from? Was there a particular culprit? I mean, the quarterback looks like he threw 17 picks, which is a lot for a guy of that quality. Did we have a lot of fumbling going on or something in
Uh,
addition?
they were on the upper half for fumbles, but it wasn't particularly egregious. Uh, they were on the lower end for generating turnovers.
Mm.
Like they were absolutely tied for the worst for opponents' fumbles, which is, I assume, just mostly luck. If somebody out there knows how to generate fumbles, chime in, but I don't. So
No, no,
I'm,
definitely
I'm
not.
thinking that's
No.
just bad luck, and that comes up to league average. Say 8 or 9.
Yeah,
That goes a long way. That
yeah.
their turnover number was on the higher side, and
Mm. There isn't many faults to pick. Normally, when you look at a 5 and 11 team, you can tear them apart.
yeah, I mean 23
But
picks is a lot, and I'm assuming that they had a backup quarterback in for a few games who tossed another 6. Um,
yeah,
that number can come down, of course.
yeah, yeah. I think, as I say, I think the passing game plan can be improved, but largely it's a really good team, and I can see why you picked them. They look like an interesting team, and I'd swap places with them, talent wise, that's for sure. They look they look good. Yeah, yeah. It looks like they can hit you from all different angles, and when you look at that defense, it's going to be it's going to be difficult to know where to attack them, isn't it?
Well, it would be fun to have you in Simon's division.
That would be fun. Yeah. Yeah. I'll leave it there. I won't comment any further.
All right. Should we jump over to your side of the table?
Yeah. Okay. I'd like to look at the. I've got three teams I'd like to look at, and probably in three. I've got three dark horses.
You want to
One
start? We'll
favoured
start with your
team.
your darkest horse or your lightest dark
My
horse.
darkest. We're going to start with my darkest horse, and my darkest horse, and it's probably because they've got the shadow of the Eagles looming over them in their division, and it's the Giants. They're my darkest of the three horses that I've got, and it's an interesting team. It's an incredible offense. Talent wise, it's superb. Against probably slightly underperforming, but still a very good offense. Very good offense, and the defense is a bit of a mess, really, a bit of a nightmare. They got one decent defensive end come in. I believe it was this off season, so that's a step in the right direction. But they have got, the sort of talent that overall that I think could possibly be a challenge to the Eagles. I'm still certainly favouring the Eagles. What I would have liked to have seen from the Giants is just bring in some more run defenders, because I always like to match up against my chief opposition, and there's no doubt that the Giants' chief opposition is the Eagles, and we know what the Eagles like to do. I mean, I looked at the Eagles receiving core just the other day, and if anything, it looks even worse. It looks rough, but the way the Giants' defense looks right now, it looks like they're going to get trampled over. And I think it was a little bit of a missed opportunity, because I know there were some good run defenders going this off season, and they weren't too expensive. They were fairly easy to get hold of, and I know that Joel's picked up the odd one here and there. Henderson is the one that comes to mind, but I think he could have.
I mean, this guy's new to the team this year, right?
Yeah, Henderson. Yeah. Yeah, so I would just like, there was another Henderson as well. I think he was a Browns free agent. I was considering I think he went back to the Browns. I was considering going for him. I didn't in the end. Or was this no, this was the Henderson that he got. No, there was two Hendersons. But he got the yeah, there were two Hendersons, two run defending guys called Henderson. He got the Browns guy. But yeah, I mean, this is the sort of guy that I'm glad he brought in, but I think there was possibly a little bit more room to even go, that one step further, and really, even if he had to trade, just get those run defenders in, because the Eagles are just so strong running the ball, and I just even with the odd couple of upgrades that he has made, I think they're going to get steamrolled pretty bad. But obviously, on the flip side, they have got that passing offense that could keep them in the game. It's just dramatic when you look at their offense versus their defense, don't you think?
Uh, well, I mean, talent-wise, yes, but if in terms of how it's playing out, like, they're plus 25 yards. Their offense put up as many points as the Broncos did, basically. Like, this isn't a big gap, right? Their offense is top 10, and their defense is just below average.
It should be a big gap based on the talent, though. I mean, they
I
they
mean, is,
committed
is
a
their
hell of a
defense
lot of
actually
penalties.
overperforming?
I'd have to have a little dig deeper on that one. I know they put up an awful lot of penalties.
All right, I
Uh,
gotta ask the question that I think nine out of ten dentists want to know here. How is an 11-5 team a dark horse?
because they've got the Eagles in their division.
Okay.
To me, they're still a dark horse, and Joel's been in the league. I'm guessing off the top of my head, 4 years. He's due a really good run, as in a bowl, at least a bowl appearance.
I,
So I don't think anybody's at the moment
I think he's had a bowl
picking.
appearance. I think I played him in the bowl.
Has he had a bowl
I
appearance?
think I played him in the bowl.
Let's have a look. Perhaps I missed it.
Conference
Conference
champion.
final. Oh yeah, yeah, it's 2049. Long time ago, 16 seasons. Yeah, I mean,
I mean, he's just got this team turned around, right? He was
I
building
I
it up
see
for
the
the last few
franchise.
years, and
I
Sherman's.
see the franchise as a underachieving franchise. I mean, they had Trout all those years. Now they've got this Sherman guy. I don't know. I'd like to see a little bit more. I'd like to see a little bit more. And it's very very difficult with the Eagles, as I say in the division. So for me, yes, they're a dark horse. I don't think many people would be tipping them to go past the Eagles. Would you?
I wouldn't say in the division. I wouldn't expect them to take the division, but I mean, they're a clear. They look like a clear playoff team. They're the second most win. No, third most wins in the conference here, right?
Mm, yeah, yeah. Maybe the meaning of dark horse is different to different to you then. For me,
It's of course, all right. We're all going to disagree on these terms. That's the fun of this.
yeah, 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 yeah. I mean, I think people are looking at the Eagles and they're looking at the Steelers.
I'm just
And
laughing
for
because
me,
you've got an 11-5 team. I picked a 5-11 team.
right, there you go. Yeah, yeah. I just don't. I think if you ran a poll, I don't think many teams would pick the Giants to win the bowl.
No, that's fair. I don't think many would either.
I think they've got. I think they've got an outside chance. I think they've got an outside chance.
I would agree.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's just an interesting team. And I am studying the Eagles closely. They made some moves that, just going off on a quick tangent, so obviously it is related to the Giants. They made some interesting moves for me. One was picking up this guy Cox and letting go Al Cox, right tackle at the Eagles.
This is the
So this
tackle they
guy,
drafted.
yeah, he's a super super dumb tackle they drafted, 5 intelligence. Now I don't know what he's seeing. What are you seeing there, rating wise?
26 out of 50.
2650. I'm seeing 2751. So and he let go a guy on, and I picked him up myself. A guy called Connor Drake. So if you wouldn't mind popping to Atlanta,
I got Connor Drake here.
you got Connor Drake. So he literally cut Connor Drake, which was to me a big surprise. Now I guess I do like my intelligent linemen, but I know which one of those two I'd prefer.
Yeah, I mean
Just to
Drake.
let go,
Drake looks
let
like
go.
maybe a career backup with 9 endurance.
No, he's a starter all day for me.
Yeah,
Without
I wouldn't
without
like starting a
intelligence,
guy with 9 endurance, but
oh, it
everybody
wouldn't
feels
bother me
differently
at
about
all.
endurance.
Yeah, it wouldn't bother me at all. Yeah, I mean, each to their own, and I guess that's the fun part of this game because for me, Connor Drake's clearly a better player than Al Cox. But what do you think about that? Who would you rate the best out of the two?
I would probably prefer Drake as well, but I wouldn't want to start either of them all that badly. Um,
Mm, mm.
I
Yeah.
also, looking at Cox, he probably looked a lot better when he was drafted than he does now. Can you see my
Mm.
screen, or have you got a bunch of other windows
Yeah,
open?
no, I can see it. I can see it.
Right, so look, he's dropped 23 points here.
Wow.
So if he was getting some guy who was a 60 or a 70,
Mm,
then that's a question. But it looks like he's had
mm, mm.
a bad
Yeah,
result there.
yeah.
No, I,
But I
I had a quick
mean,
question.
yeah.
We talked about the Denver's short and medium passing. What do you make of the Giants' miscellaneous passing splits here?
Let's have a look. I went off on a tangent there because it was just an interesting little yeah, interesting little topic for me. As I say, having picked up Drake myself and seeing Cox on his roster, that surprised me. It's just the interesting way this game's played, isn't it? People think in different ways, but I was very surprised. I'm not saying it's opening anything up, but for the Giants as such. But it was just interesting. Yeah, I mean, again, this time it kind of looks like he's probably underthrowing the medium passes. He's probably going overly short in terms of attempts.
He's not throwing
Not
deep as
not
much as I would have expected.
No, he's not thrown enough medium passes. I mean, they, but that's the problem. You know, the less you do something, the higher your average tends to be, and the more you do something, the lower your average tends to be. Whereas, you know, I guess the idea is what the AI would like to see is, you know, you hitting that sweet spot. You know, Rex, I guess, you know, in terms of balance, is that sweet spot, and yeah, I think perhaps he could have got better results if he threw more medium passes and taken away a few short ones. I think he could have done perhaps a better job in that regard. But it's nothing horrendous.
It looks like he's in a bad way for penalties here.
Yeah, he is. Yeah, he is in a bad way for penalties. Let's have a look at his offensive lineman.
39, 88, but this guy's your old guy. He's a backup. 97, 23, but this guy's well,
Oh, Chuck
maybe
Hastings.
he must have
Yeah.
been injured. 83 for this guy. 46,
Mm,
21. I've seen
seen worse.
worse.
Yeah, I've seen worse. It must be maybe a low intelligence across the roster then, perhaps. But yeah, it's an interesting team, and it's the sort of team. You know, you play a team like this in the playoffs, and you're at the mercy of the dice in some ways, aren't you? I do think, I know Joel loves his offense, but this is extreme. This is extreme. I think maybe you know, a few more defensive players, particularly run defenders, considering the division.
Well, he's got two guys rated above 50 on defense right now.
Yeah,
He's got some solid 40s in there, but one
yeah,
one
but
stud defensive end, one good
yeah,
linebacker.
you know, it's not going to be pretty having playing that Eagles running game, is it? And that could be the key, you know, if the Eagles sweep the Giants, and I think that's the trouble. I think they match up well with the Giants,
He
and
actually beat
that
the
could
Eagles
be.
week 17 last year. I don't know if that was a meaningful game for Tom or not, but
No, I don't know. But this is it. When you've got offensive talent like this, it does put your team in the hands of the dice, because you know you've got these super talented receivers that that could break out on any given play, and you know this superb quarterback. I think the volatility of the team could be fairly high, whereas the Eagles, I think they have probably a more consistent approach, perhaps.
I mean,
But then
yeah,
I
that
think
that makes perfect sense to me.
the Giants have also got a pretty decent running attack as well, though.
So yeah, I got to ask you about this. Uh, First round picks, both of these running backs. What do you think of that? 2 years apart.
Yeah, I mean, not normally it wouldn't be a direction that I would go, that's for sure. You know, last time I was in this league, my previous run, Joel would not even take a running back in the first round. So something's changed. I mean, no, it seems odd, if I'm honest, to go running back when you've already got a young running back. I would have probably wanted to be looking somewhere else, and most likely on defense. But then you can only take who's on the board. I mean, I didn't even look at the first round. I didn't have any draft picks, so I didn't bother. But
Yeah, I don't think Joel would have even
yeah,
considered going defense there.
yes, I mean, he's already got a really, really good young starting running back. So yeah, interesting. It's not a horrible pick, but it's 59% from what I'm seeing. So I think those ratings are false. I think he's going to be better than than what we're seeing on the screen because his development is only 59%. But
I do
yeah,
too, but where is he going to get? Where is he going to get it? Like he's not going to gain speed to the outside or breakaway speed or power inside, right?
no, he's going to probably end up maxing his whole recognition. His endurance is going to go way up because that's full red already. His route running will go up. His pass catching bars. So I mean, he's just going to be a very for me a whole recognition for me is clearly the most important bar. So he's just going to be a very good running back. As in the and he's going to be able to catch out the backfield. I don't really worry about avoid drops too much. So I think he's going to be for me a good player.
Yeah, he looks very, very useful.
But I mean, the problem being is that I don't really see that he's going to bring much value to the team because you've already got a very good running back, and this is a sort of running back who can be very, very good for another, 4 seasons or so. So what's the other fella going to do? You're not going to be wanting to run the ball an exorbitant amount because you've got an amazing passing attack. So yeah, yeah. Yeah, I don't. It seems like overkill. I guess that's the word I'd use.
He's run the ball
Right.
well, almost pretty much 5 yards a carry last year.
Yeah, I don't doubt that. Yeah, I mean, if he could have got himself like a really nice dominant, linebacker or an inside linebacker, somebody that's gonna, really make a difference against the run or a stud. I mean, I know Tom picked up
Well, there were two defensive
some
tackles that
really
went at the
really
end of the
nice tackles.
first.
Yeah, really really nice. So we pointed out his bad draft pick. Well, I thought it was a bad one. He might not do. I didn't like it, but he picked up Rosenberg, who looks exceptional. Yes, he's dumb. I don't worry about that quite so much on the defensive line, though.
I mean, yeah, at a certain point, you're getting an 80, you live with some penalties.
Yeah, and you're not going to get as many though. I don't think intelligence is quite so important on the defensive line. So I wouldn't be, offensive line. I'm really adamant. I wouldn't want a dumb offensive lineman. Full stop. But defensive lineman of that quality at 132, I think is a great pick. And the offensive lineman, the guy left tackle Stout, he's just going to continue their legacy at offensive line, isn't he? He's another stud lineman who's going to cause mayhem and yeah. So it was a 2 out of 3. 2 out of 3 ain't bad. That's what they say. So I think it's another good draft for the Eagles. But yeah. So that's kind of winding it up really. For me, it's a very very tough one to call. I think the Eagles do match up with the Giants well. I mean, if they played them 100 times, but that's not what happens. It's maybe you'll play twice, maybe 3 times, and in that small sample size, the dice are going to be huge. So it's just going to be interesting. It's
It
going to
looks
be
like
interesting. But
somebody's got to win on the road, right? Both of these teams went 8-0 at home. If somebody can go
wow.
into the other building and get a win, that might be the
But
division.
next off season, I really hope Joel. Wow, do I hope it? I don't know. He might end up beating me in playoffs, but
For his
I
sake,
think
you
he
hope it.
for his sake, I hope that he sorts the defense out because the offense is fine and it's really not going to get a lot better.
I mean, I don't know that. I think it's just a philosophical thing for Joel. Is he's more
Yeah,
interested in the offense, like
yeah, of course he is. Yeah, he
right,
is.
like in the
But I
the
mean,
fourth round, he spent on this quarterback that he finds interesting. At,
yeah,
right, and he's like, because that's what's fun for him, rather than finding maybe a useful player on defense. Like he'd rather see
I,
what's
I
up
I
with his
think Joel
quarterback.
would. I think Joel would love to win, and I think if he wants to win, he needs to get a little bit more talent on defense. I mean, it's not that he did bring some defensive guys in. I think he might have been winding us up about this Billings guy.
Billings,
Yeah,
who's that?
Alvin Billings, defensive tackle. We got him in and drafted free agency.
He looks
He
good.
was he was talking about him on the forum. What do you see his run defense as?
56.
Yeah, I got 54. So I mean, he's useless as far as I'm concerned. Um,
Really?
oh, totally, completely useless. I mean, his intelligence is 1.
Yeah, but you've just finished saying that it's not so bad on the D line.
Yeah, but he's got nothing else. I mean,
He's got
yeah, I mean,
100
if you've got that,
endurance. He's got 77 pass rush
yeah, he's going to
strength.
stay on the field a long time being shit. Do you know what I mean? He can stay on the field all day and just be shit. But no, no, I'm only messing around. It's yeah, I just don't. Joel was like made up that he got him, but I just don't. I don't know. I don't see it. He did say that his run defense is a bit higher, but
Right.
normally if that was the case by now after PS2, we'd be starting to see it too, but we're not.
Well, I
So
see him as 5 better than the League Scout sees him, so that's a good sign. And Joel probably sees him even
yeah,
higher than that.
I'm just not. This was I suppose so-called the prize of undrafted free agency, and
I mean,
I
that's
just
that's how
chuckled.
he wants to build his defense, right? Is getting some gems after the draft.
This guy's a bum. I just don't think he's going to bring anything other than penalties. But we'll see. We'll see. I'll maybe eating my words. I'll be watching the career of Alvin Billings closely. Yeah, I'm not a fan of Alvin Billings, that's for sure. We'll see. We'll see. But yeah, right. Should we move on to your second?
We should, but before we do, I wanted you tried to get us to predict where Denver was going to end up. Let's hear what you think
Uh,
about New York.
what do I think is going to happen? I think probably the same thing as what happened last year.
Second in
That
the division and makes a playoff anyway.
yeah, yeah, that's what I think is going to happen. But
It's competitive over there in
any
the NFC.
it is. But any time a team like this makes the playoffs, they could go all the way. And you know, the dice don't really have a memory,
I
but the Giants are overdue.
I want to push back just a little bit because in my mind, I don't play Joel more than once every 4 years or whatever, but I thought that he passed it deep more often than he is right now. And as it stands, let's see if I can find New York. He's middle of the pack for deep throws,
Yeah,
and he's way, way, way up there for short throws. So I
yeah.
don't think the dice are all that volatile.
Good point.
He's not throwing medium at all
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
comparatively,
yeah,
and middle of the
yeah,
pack for here, and a whole bunch of
yeah.
short throws. I don't think that's going to give you a big wide range of outcomes in the passing game.
No, it's certainly going to reduce the dice. However, he's still got those talented receivers,
Yeah, I
and
mean these guys can take over a game. Absolutely, they've all got
they
the
have the
ability.
potential to. They
Yeah.
have the potential to. Yeah, I mean they can break, and that's I guess that's the volatility really is when you got the guys of this quality. They it's difficult to get a handle on the. Yeah, I mean the Eagles do have a good defense, but guys like this can break in any game at any given moment. So yeah, we'll see. But I expect Joe will come up with something completely new game plan wise this year anyway. We may see something completely different.
Oh, I have no insight on that, so I look forward to the new Giants offense.
Hmm.
All right,
I wouldn't be
we'll
surprised.
you've got more insight there. We'll jump back and talk about the Bengals, who I think are another dark horse in the AFC. A team similarly in the shadow of the dominant team in their division, Pittsburgh. Cincinnati's coming off even a worse record than Denver. They just went 4-12, but I think they have some things going for them. Um, they got options at quarterback. They've just brought in Demetrius Sullivan, who takes over for this guy who didn't even do badly last year. I I can't even say I know who's going to start at quarterback, but if this guy goes back, he's respectable and should be better as he improves. And if this guy's just a backup, then he's a really strong backup. Um, they're solid at wide receiver, got solid at tight end. They've got, I think, a real strength here with their running back. This guy put up 1,200 yards on 266 carries, which is really impressive. And you like to talk about the penalties, and I bet Julio does too because his team's good at it. Real low in
He always
penalties.
has been. He always
Yeah,
has been. it just looks like an old school Julio team. It's just it really is. It's they're looking up and down. He looks like he's lost his way a little bit in recent times compared to his history when I was around. He was really successful. He's had a few rough seasons, it appears, and
Right, he was in the playoffs for 20 years basically, and
yeah, he was a really
he's
strong
had a
GM with a
slow
strong team,
decline. He's,
and it looks a
I
lot
think
like
he's going to
this.
turn it. I think he's going to turn it right around.
Oh, I think he will. He's a good player. I think the team looks like it's always the way it always looked, if you know what I mean. But they do seem lost at quarterback,
Well, he spent
and
1-3 on this guy, right? And so he's got to decide if this is the guy or not. But in case he's
uh,
not, he's brought this guy in.
yeah, he does look lost. I mean, I think the flair and the passing attacks were, if he has a weakness, that probably would be where it lies. And I think he may have let a guy slip through his fingers in Gamboa. I wonder if perhaps he needed a little more patience with him because I think he's a very talented quarterback.
Gamboa. I don't.
Yeah, he's my backup now,
Oh, okay.
so I'm biased.
Just a
He's
little.
Terrell Light, basically. He's got a really nice scrambling bar. He's got about 80 avoid interceptions. So he's got weaknesses, but for me, he's got strengths where it counts.
Yeah, I mean, it looks
You
like
know,
he gave Gamboa. He rolled the dice with this guy, and he never hit
Mm.
6.5. Basically, hit 6.5 yards one time per attempt.
Yeah,
He's always
yeah,
throwing interceptions. He's never having a good
yeah,
rating. He
yeah.
gave him a fair shot. It didn't work out for him.
I don't blame the quarterback personally. I would look for the answers elsewhere because I think this guy's a good player. I think it's either the players around him or the system. I don't think this quarterback is a bad one. I think he's a good one.
Well, I do think that some players work better in some systems, and I think Julio's got a system that works. I
Mm.
think we've seen that, right? We looked at his team history. He's making the playoffs every other year or better. So if he's decided that guy doesn't fit his system, then you are better probably moving on from him and looking at another direction.
Yeah, I mean, I just don't feel that he's made positive steps at the position. But obviously, certainly could be wrong there. We'll see. But yeah, I guess I can't add any more than that. I think quarterback is a weakness for them, and I think probably the guy they let go is better than the two guys that are still in the building. Really.
Well, even this guy as a 20-something probably last year, he outperformed Gamboa in
Yeah.
every category.
Which guy? Sullivan? Who are we looking
Whiting.
at? Sorry.
Sullivan was on the Jags last year.
Whiting.
Sullivan
Yeah.
hasn't started in a few years, but
Yeah. Yeah.
Whiting,
Yeah. I mean, for me,
the,
is when I look at a season and compare a couple of guys, and one guy may have played 5 games or something. I mean, I'm just going to talk about dice rolls straight away and small sample sizes. Um, you know, I can only go on what I see in front of me, and I don't see anything in Whiting, particularly the quality of him now. He's not. He's at 60% developed. I can't see any reason why he would be performing better at quarterback than Gamboa. So,
but he did.
but it's dice rolls. It's not real.
You don't think
It's
this
to me.
11 game sample is enough?
No,
All right.
no,
Well,
it's not.
Julio will have something to prove here at quarterback to Nick.
Yeah, no, I don't think it's real, mate. It's not real. I think it's that's just my opinion. We've all got our opinions. I don't believe it's real. I don't think there's a magic potion behind the scenes for Whiting that makes him better than Gamboa. No, I don't. But we'll see, won't we? That's the fun of it, isn't it?
Yeah.
I think Gambo's. I believe the red bars that I see. I believe the calculations for avoid interceptions. I mean, in fairness, he only played 2 games last year for the Bengals, Gamboa. So literally only played 2 games. I mean, yeah, they were bad games, but it's just 2 games. And
Right, but he played 5, 6 years there, and he didn't do well.
yeah, I just don't think it's probably his fault. I don't blame the player. I mean, a player can not do well, but the quarterback gets a lot of blame, but there's a hell of a lot of variables that go into his outcome.
Oh,
It doesn't
definitely. I
necessarily,
mean, it's
you
it's
know,
never just one guy.
the play calling, the talent around him.
All right. So
Yeah, I'm not saying he's fantastic. I don't think he is fantastic. I just don't like the quarterbacks in Cincinnati right now.
okay.
I
Well,
don't. I
speaking
don't.
of the talent around him, he's got two 60s at defensive end, three 60s at
Mm.
defensive end.
Yeah, I mean the talent elsewhere outside of quarterback is in places it's excellent, really, really good. I mean the offensive line is always going to be good in
Yeah, he's got
Cincinnati.
huge
It's a
numbers at offensive line.
priority, and they're always smart. They're always excellent.
He's strong up the
He's
middle. He's
great
got a stud
defense,
linebacker.
great defense.
Secondary, like you got to
So
load up to beat Rob. You're gonna have to have some pass defense, and he's got that for sure.
yeah, yeah, and when it comes down to the pass and attack, he's not going to be, in my opinion, in the same ballpark as the Steelers. But he's got a lot. He's got a lot of areas where he would be better than the Steelers. But
Well,
it's the difference between the pass and attacks. I think is going to be a big gulf. So we'll see.
yeah, he's got to improve the offense. Obviously, he's down here at the bottom with 18 points a game.
Mm.
Uh, his yards per game is slightly better than that, but again, another team that was unlucky in fumbles. He's got only 4 last year. There's room to improve there.
Yeah,
Did well in interceptions.
I
And
think it. I
he
think
was on
it's
the higher end for his own team fumbling, so I think there's room for that to balance out for him a little bit.
yeah, sure. I mean, they're not a full win team this year, and I mean, if they had 9 wins, even 10 is, I wouldn't be shocked.
Right, and
They're
plus,
they're a, I think they're a good pick for yourself. I think they're a great dark horse. However, I think they're probably a 1 in 100 shot of winning the bowl, if not longer than that.
yeah, it won't be easy, right? Especially trying to get out of his division. But he had a couple of tough losing streaks this last year.
Yeah, you do get these weird runs. It's like the Vikings with their quarterback, and their backup quarterback last year. He played tremendously well, and I think it's a trap. I think you can start to believe that you've got something you haven't. You get a run of a player putting up some excellent statistics, and you start to believe that he's a good player. But from my experience, he usually isn't. It just happens. Just so happens that you've rolled a few sixes in a row. So yeah, it'd be an interesting team to follow,
So
definitely.
Julio's a team um, that's chucking it deep. They threw 100,
Yeah,
100 long passes last year, which
right.
gives them some volatility that we're talking about.
Mm. Mm.
They're also high in medium passes and low in short passes. So he's chucking it up there with his
Yeah.
young quarterback and giving him a chance to win or lose in some games.
Mm. Yeah. Yeah. Well, we'll see. We'll see how the guy plays, and it just doesn't look to me like the team, the natural approach for a team like that. But I mean, if you're running the ball hard, I guess yeah, you're going to want to test deep for sure. But
So
I'd be
they're
nervous, with that sort of. But I'd probably be nervous throwing short as well with that team. I just don't like the quarterback really. But anyway, we'll see. He'll probably be a legend this year, and I'll be eating my words.
well, I'm willing to bet that he puts up more yards and touchdowns than Gamboa.
Unless Terrell gets hurt, I think you're right. Terrell gets hurt, I
Even
think
if
you're
even
wrong.
if Terrell gets hurt, I'm willing to bet on it.
Absolutely no chance. Not a chance. Gamboa would throw over 4,000 yards in our offense. No problem.
I
If
know
he
I
doesn't
know
get
you're I
hurt.
know you're throwing it all the time now. So
If you give him 16 games, yeah, I think so. Right, I guess we ought to move on. Time's ticking along.
where to?
My second pick is 49ers. I like the look of this team. Again, it's a dark horse. It's a UK dark horse, not an
What on
American dark
earth
horse,
does
I
dark
guess.
horse mean on your side of the world?
It means a
They led the
team.
NFC in wins. They're 13-3. I
It
can't
means
even believe
something
what we're
different
talking
to
about
you,
right now.
obviously.
Oh my God.
The only team that isn't a dark horse are the Steelers and the Eagles for me. No,
Okay.
for me, a dark horse is a team that has a legit chance to win the bowl.
We should have, I'll tell you this. Next time we decide to do a video, we got to talk to each other first about what the words we say mean.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, it's not a team that I think.
They've got more wins than the last two teams I picked combined.
Yeah, it's not a team that I really deep down think is going to win the bowl. But if I can't pick the Steelers and I can't pick the Eagles, these are the teams that I'm picking.
Okay.
Yeah. So I loved his running back that he took. I thought that was an amazing pick. I loved the pick. I thought it was
I
brilliant.
I was trying to
How did
trade
he
up to
laugh?
I was trying to trade up to get this guy. It didn't work out.
Yeah. Yeah. What an incredible pick. Yeah, that's such a huge pick for the 49ers,
And
seriously.
82% developed. He comes in ready to roll.
Yeah, it doesn't look like they've drafted particularly well, but then the last 4 years, but then they probably have they been doing? I don't even know. Let me have a look. I don't know what their recent history is.
Here you go.
They're very hot and cold franchise in the past.
I mean, 13, 9, 11, 9, 7, 11. After that, they had a weird two-win season.
Yeah,
9, 8. They've been pretty consistent with some
yeah,
random fall-offs here and there.
yeah, yeah. When I was in the division, I really didn't know what I was going to get. You know, some years they give me all I can handle, and the next year they didn't turn up. But yeah, I mean, we're at a point now where this quarterback is just an absolute rock, isn't he? And now they've got a running back as well. You know, this guy, he was taken first overall, and you know the Keynesian's starting to roll now, and you know obviously he can do everything. He's absolutely superb quarterback. You got a running back, so I mean that is an offense in just like that, isn't it? The offensive line is great. You know, it's just a very nice looking team. The defense, yeah, it's not great. The defense is obviously the weak point, and I guess that's why. Well, arguably,
Hey,
the
I'm gonna
weak
let
the
you
weak point.
monologue for a second. I got an incoming phone call, all right?
Okay. Yeah, so much like the Giants, we are sort of trying to pick out the highly rated players. We've got one guy over 55, Buckner. So I guess it's all hanging on the offense here. We've got three stud offensive linemen. The receivers are average, but that tandem, the running back, the new running back, the rookie running back, and the quarterback, that could be the tandem that push these guys over the edge. I think Kinney was a huge pick for the 49ers, and probably considering where he was taken, for me it was the pick of the draft. I really being a skill position guy that's just completely ready to go. He's just the sort of guy that can walk in and give you that instant impact.
Any concerns over his age?
Not really. I mean, older guys, the higher developed guys, they do tend to be older. So
You get
yeah,
what you pay for here.
yeah, it might take a year off, but I'd be more than happy with this guy.
So, okay. Well, let me go back because I missed what you were talking about. So apologies. Why are we down on the defense here?
Well, the defense, it reminded me of the Giants a
They're
little
they're second in the league in yards per game.
in terms of talent,
Okay.
but how the hell did they end up so good in yards per game then? Something's going on there, isn't it?
They definitely. I mean, they were plus 10 in turnovers, which helps
That always helps.
for points, but I don't think it helps for yards all that much.
No, overperforming defense, then, eh? Not very good on the penalty side either. And the thing that surprises me now I'm looking is the special teams. The special teams is awful.
Where do we go to judge the special teams?
I go on to let me see, kick returns.
Okay.
When I talk about kick special teams, I'm not talking about punts. I'm not talking about kicks. I'm talking about coverage and the punt and kick return averages. So yeah, that's just my jargon. So when I'm looking at this, I've got punt returns is I don't know
Yeah, so they were
bottom eight.
they were bad on special teams. They were
Kick
returning and
returns
kick
probably
returnings were
bottom
bad, and the
six.
coverage
Yeah,
units were bad.
everything's horrible, absolutely horrible. Third from the bottom, punt return coverage. Fifth from the bottom, yeah, absolute terrible special teams. So that's an easy fix.
Well, only if he's fixed it.
Well, you could fix it now, couldn't he?
You think?
Yeah, of course you could.
How?
We just jump straight into free agency and go and grab some special teams players. It's
Okay,
that
what
simple,
position
really.
should he look for?
Well, I'm giving away all my secrets now, aren't I?
Why not?
Well, I mean, you just search.
I just want to go to a position that you say you don't, and just to show you that I don't think there will be a bunch of special team studs sitting there. I can be totally wrong. I don't know.
I,
Let's just see
I
what
expect you
happens.
probably are wrong. I expect you probably are. You
Okay.
just search for special teams.
What
So
position?
you just recommend any position,
Any
any
position.
non-kick, any non-kicker,
Okay.
any non-kicker, current special teams. So there you go. Right, 90, 100,
Well, the top guy looks amazing.
92, 95. I mean, there's always a wealth of special teams players.
I can't believe there's.
My
Wait,
guy that I cut,
this is current rosters.
Leicester.
Let me try free agents. Okay. There's some 90s
Interesting.
sitting out there. Some 80s.
Yeah, it's loads. There's loads of quality special teams guys, and it's usually a little bit more difficult to get returners, to be fair. But if you've got, you grab yourself three dedicated special teams players that are around the 90 mark, that makes a big difference.
Well, I am proven wrong. They're sitting there to be had.
They're just sat there, aren't they? Yeah, they're just sat there. They normally are just sat there. But there you go. Look. So yeah, I do think he could probably make an instant. I mean, I jumped into the Falcons, and our special teams have been superb. And that's the first thing I do is when I land on a team is sort the special
Yeah,
teams out.
I
And
noticed all of a sudden you got to the Falcons and I had to fight for some special teamers. You got a couple from me in free agency.
yeah. I mean, as soon as I land on the team, I mean, we haven't got a lot I can do, but one thing I can do is sort the special teams out. And overnight, they're probably top 3 or 4, I'd imagine. I haven't looked lately. Let me see how my special teams did. Going off topic now, aren't I? I'm terrible at going off topic. I know.
It's hard not to talk about yourself.
Oh, it's very, very difficult.
Well, your
Well,
return game was good. Your coverage units, not so much.
third, third coverage. No, coverage wasn't that good, was it? No, it's average coverage. Excellent returns and average on coverage. Yeah, yeah. I mean, I'd expect it better than that considering the quality of my special teams. But yeah, it is what it is. It's probably still top 5, top 6. I would have thought overall. Hopefully, we'll be better this year.
So other than special teams, what else do the 49ers need to do to get over the hump?
I think special teams would be enough.
That's it? Go to free
Mm.
agency, grab three guys, and beat Tom?
Well, I think I mean, you can never say absolutely what's going to
Of
happen,
course not.
can
Of
you?
course not.
But it's going to make them a better team. It's going to make them a better team. I mean, it's just so goddamn easy to improve your special teams. It's just and to not do it is almost criminal, really.
The NFC West is apparently scared of throwing the ball deep. The Cardinals completed 3 deep passes last year, and the Niners 4.
Mm.
What is the point of having an 88 quarterback and completing 4 deep passes all year? You tell me.
Conservative. I mean, yeah. I mean, I like what the 49ers. I mean, they're 13-3. It's hard to criticize too much. It really is. And then their defense. I mean, he's playing
I mean,
great defense. When you look at the quality of the.
that's good. That's what how he could win is stop being one of get out get out of the here with the rest of your division being the worst deep passers in the league.
But the biggest thing when it comes to playing good defense, the most important thing, and this is something I'm gonna throw out there is playing bad offenses. It's not your defense that's the key.
So you
It's the
think the
offenses
the
you
reason
play,
that their yards per game so low is because they're playing the NFC West?
probably. Yeah, I think that's probably a big factor. I mean, I believe that it's roughly 2/3 to 1/3. So when there's a matchup, 2/3 of the results of the result is influenced by offense, and 1/3 is influenced by defense. So you may have a bad defense, but if you're playing a bad offense, the results are going to go in your favor as a defense. Whereas if you're playing two good defenses, the offense is carrying a little more weight. Yeah, that's how I see it. The offense is more important than defense. So you can have a bad defense and still be successful if you're playing bad offenses.
Okay.
And that's what I think there's probably a little bit of that going on. Not to take away from any, obviously work and that, but I think perhaps there could be a little bit of that going on. But should we move on?
Sure. You want a
Who, who
final
we have?
prediction for the Niners there?
Oh, well, the trouble with me is I just think, well, they'll probably do what they do. It's probably happen what happened last year. But I mean, I'll say this. I think there's a good chance that if he did go out and he sorted his special teams out, that they could be the best team in the conference. I really do. I really do. I think if his special teams are terrible, and it's given up, he's leaking yards, and to still be 13-3 with such awful special teams, I think they got the potential to be the best team in the conference. They really do. So I don't think they're going to get challenged in the division. I think they're probably just going to walk into the playoffs. So I have to presume that he was not going to sort the special teams out, and that probably my favourite dark horse pick or the Eagles are going to have the edge. I think
Okay.
it will be revealed shortly, but yeah, I mean it's a huge variable, isn't it? It's whether
Well,
I just think
I think that they've got to open up the offense a little bit more. I think they've got to do better on the deep balls. Like 4 for 29 isn't going to get you a bowl.
I'm struggling to criticise what he's done offensively. Really, you're right in theory. I mean, it's not how I would play, but to go 13-3 with such a terrible special teams is it's magical. I mean, Brennan was a 101 rating, only 5 interceptions. That's the value of not throwing deep. Because every
Yeah,
time you throw deep, you increase your risk of throwing interceptions.
that's
And
a good point.
he's obviously playing that conservative game.
Yeah, a very good point.
So it's just the way he's playing. He's reaping the rewards through low turnovers, and he's still averaging over 7 yards a pass and not throwing deep. I mean, how cool is that? It's a dream.
It worked well till he played the Eagles and averaged 5 yards an attempt.
Yeah, he doesn't need to throw deep. If you can average 7.09 in front office football and throw 5 interceptions all year, you don't need to throw deep, do you?
No, that's a good point. All
Mm.
right, you've teased it. You've teased your favorite team. I think we should jump to it.
Have we not done yours?
Uh, we've done my the two that I feel strongest about.
Do you want me to jump straight to mine then?
Yeah, let's do.
Okay, it's the Vikings. Super weird Vikings with their two stud quarterbacks.
So
Yeah,
who's going to play this year?
Well, I suppose Kinney's going to play, isn't he?
I don't know.
I don't know. Don't think it really matters, does it?
I feel like it has to matter, yeah.
Well, I don't know that it does. I think they're both reasonably similar. I mean,
How are they similar?
as in ratings wise, I suppose. I mean, overall ability.
Okay. They definitely have similar overall ratings, but they look like different quarterbacks to me.
Very, very different quarterbacks. Yeah, and looking at them now.
So if you're building an
Hmm.
offense, you do have to have that in mind. You can't just plug and play these guys. Can you?
Max will have his ideas. Max knows what he's doing. Max will have given it thought,
So
and
your confidence level here is in Max, not necessarily the quarterbacks.
I think he could win with either one. I think the rest of his team is excellent. I think he is a very good GM. I think he's an all rounder. I think the team's an all rounder. I mean the defense is excellent. I think the offense is. I mean the defense is maybe the best in the conference potentially up there anyway.
Very
He's got the offensive line covered. The interior offensive line is just it's a dream. It's amazing.
yeah.
Yeah, I think his special teams are solid. I think he's got all the boxes ticked, and I mean, it's funny that he couldn't move Demister, isn't it? It made me laugh. You can't move him. He couldn't move him. Trouble is when you give up on a guy, it's very, very, and you're very, very hard to get good value, isn't it? Because you've basically said, everybody respects Max. I think I do anyway, and you know, when you see that he struggled with him, then he turns around and tries to sell him. It's almost diminishes Demister's value, doesn't it? It's almost like, well, you can't win with him, so why do I want him?
Yeah,
That kind of psychology.
so you've picked another division winner. He was the second highest point differential in the league last year, and for your dark horse status, he was negative 1.7 in wins for unlucky. So
He's unlucky, was he?
he's unlucky. He should have been more like 12, 13 wins.
Mm. Mm.
So you have that going
Yeah.
for you.
So yeah, I mean, again, as I say, anybody not named the Steelers or the Eagles can be a dark horse. So for me, so that's how I arrived at these guys because I think in the NFC, I think if anybody topples the Eagles, I mean, the 49ers are really close, but I think the Eagles probably slightly got the best, just about got the best chance.
So something not in his favor for doing extremely well next year is he led the league in opponents' fumbles last year. He had an absurd plus 23 turnover margin last year.
Mm,
He was on the bottom of the list for his team fumbling, the top of the list for other teams fumbling.
that's a good spot. I mean, it did seem, yeah, but I mean, he was rolling with his backup quarterback, wasn't he?
Right, but that's just fumbles. Like what he did well for interceptions. He was, you know, near the top for catching them and
Yeah,
near the bottom for throwing them. So
I
there's not a
I
ton of
think
room for improvement there.
no, there's not, but I think the two are related. I think, you know, having that joy with that fumble recovery rate, I think that could be related to the success of the quarterback because when you win games, it's easier to come out with a nice, pretty rating. And when you're chasing a game, your quarterback ends up looking poor. So I think that statistic, the fumble statistic, is probably a reason why his backup quarterback looked better than what he was.
Oh, because he was never chasing.
Yeah, because he was in a privileged position. He was, in that nice position. It's you do tend to end up with pretty looking ratings when you're winning. Really,
So, do you
you're
think
not.
that his whoever he starts this year will do better than Tucker?
Well, I'd have to have a look how Tucker's doing. He's with the Bears, is he?
Yeah, I've got him up.
Hmm. I'm just going to dig into his 96.9. Not that, yeah, it's not easy to do better than that.
It's
I
not.
mean,
The like the little tiny shreds of improvement you can get from there are
yeah.
small.
You know what concerns me about this is that I think Max is volatile, and I would bet that at some point during this year he's going to change his mind on who his starting quarterback is.
Well, you said it doesn't matter right from the jump.
I don't think it does. I think he can win with either. I don't think it really matters which one he goes with. But you were saying like he's you've got to have a philosophy and you can have an idea. But because Max is quite volatile, I think that he'll change his mind. At some point during the year as to
Well,
who his starting quarterback is.
Max and his backup quarterback led the league in yards per attempt for short passes last year.
Yeah.
We're quite good at medium. Oh, this is Miami. How have I done this? Let me actually get this right. I have it completely wrong. He was near the bottom of the league in short passes last year.
Oh, was he?
Yeah, no, I screwed that up. And he threw it deep a lot and did it pretty well.
Ah.
He does not look like he has the Rex ratio for passing. He completed a lot of passes, really high completion percentage, but they didn't go very well. So it'll be interesting to see if he chooses the guy with a bunch of short passes or the guy with 10 short passes.
Who would you choose?
I would want the scramble bar.
Yeah, 100%. And the centre rush bar, slightly better. I'd like to see
Yeah,
the avoid interceptions. I guess Kinney's probably slightly better, but then we got that 5'11" thing going on, haven't we?
yeah, there's a big height difference.
And something else that amused me is obviously Demeester hasn't done that well, but look at Kinney's career. He's been terrible, really, considering his overall. So it's not as though you're going for a guy who's like been really, really successful. What I mean? How long's this
Well,
guy been in
I mean,
Minnesota?
I don't know.
5 years. I mean, he's
Kinney's
got the
not been good,
cohesion.
but he's had flashes.
Yeah. Well, they're both pretty similar, though, aren't they? In terms of, they're not miles away from each other, are they? I mean, I'd go with Demeester, and he's got the cohesion as well.
We could. I mean, I think we have to assume he's not going with Demeester because he's been trying to
You have to
trade
assume that.
Demeester.
Yeah, I think you do. I think you do have to assume that. I think that
Which means, does that mean that the Vikings in Chicago have traded quarterbacks?
I guess so. I think that playoff game broke his heart, if I'm honest with you. I think it I think it crushed his spirit. I really do. Because he
Uh,
threw 5 interceptions, didn't he?
Chicago's probably starting Melvin Farrell. They probably got Tucker to again play the backup. Uh,
Hmm.
let's see. I don't remember that game,
Yeah,
so
he did. He did. He played the Rams, and he was one and done. And Demeester threw 5 interceptions, and he had a rating of 16.2. And he lost to the
16.2.
and he lost to the Rams by 3. So I mean,
And
Max would
he
have
threw five and got three. He still picked him off three times.
Max would have wanted to have him killed. If I'm honest with you, I think.
You think Max is that kind of guy? He'd have him assassinated.
I don't think he would in normal circumstances, but I think in this particular circumstance, yes.
Okay.
Every man's got a breaking point, and I'm telling you, I think this was Max's breaking point. I think this would have broken his heart, absolutely crushed his
Well,
spirit.
it's interesting you say that because you know how he got Kenny is is
Yeah,
is Kenny reached JJ's breaking point and he just released him,
yeah, yeah,
right? So he's like, you know what? I'm
yeah,
done with this guy. I've hit my breaking point. He's out, and
yeah,
these two have now swapped
yeah,
quarterbacks
yeah.
to some degree.
Yeah, I've never had that. See, I've never been so sick of a guy that like that. I've never, not like a on paper quality player. I've never really. I mean, the last frustration I had was with my punt returner, my rookie punt returner, who I knew was going to be superb one day. but having his avoid fumbles bar was obviously small, and he was winding me up. One minute he'd win us a game, next game he'd lose us a game. But I kind of saw that coming because expected it. But yeah, it must be difficult when you've got a quarterback who's great on paper who's not performing.
Well, what if Terrell came out next year and had a 85 rating and threw five
Then
interceptions when you play Tom? Would you switch to Gamboa?
no, because I know it's my fault. It's not his fault.
Okay.
It's realism. I blame myself. I don't blame him. He's superb, and I'm misdirecting him. It's either dice rolls or it's me. It's not him. That's how I think. I think that would really help Max. I think he needs to realize that sometimes you have to accept responsibility, and I don't think people like doing that. They don't like blaming themselves. It's easier to blame the player, isn't it? When in fact it's not the player. It's either you or dice rolls, in my
I,
opinion.
I don't know. I don't know. I feel strongly that sometimes there's a system issue. Like I've had a running back with 90 to 100 hole wreck who averaged like 3 yards a carry for me,
Yeah.
and I just couldn't make it happen when I had, lesser running backs in that same role doing better. And
Mm.
and eventually I just had to move on from the guy and know
But
that I'd
yeah, I
get better
mean,
production with someone who looked worse.
yeah, and I think it's up to you to diagnose the problem, isn't it? I mean, that's how I look at it. It's up to you as a GM to diagnose why something is happening. And normally, if you look deep enough, there will be an answer. You might not find it, but there will be an answer. And if the player's a better player, I normally think there's a way of him performing better than the weaker guy. I mean, I think ultimately the 5 picks, there was a lot of dice there. There has to have been a lot of dice there. So that's very, very unlucky.
Sure.
But you can't get into that mentality that the world's against me, the game's against me. You got the past, you forget the past, and you look at the next game. That's how the dice have no memory. But yeah,
So
we'll see. I still like the Vikings, and I still think they're going to take some beating this year.
so what do they have to do to to get past the monster in Philly?
I think one of the main things they need to do is Max needs to handle his emotions
So
truthfully.
so you're recommending Max perhaps get some therapy.
Maybe be more self-aware. I'm not into therapy. I don't really believe in it too
Okay.
much.
So he needs to diagnose himself.
Yeah, but yeah, self-awareness. Yeah, yeah. I know you guys over there are bang into therapy, but I mean, I actually started out in that line of work, and I became quite skeptical of the
J
whole thing,
jaded
really.
perhaps.
Yeah, I don't know. I just think it's just I think in America, it's a very commercial country, and I think a lot of things are sold to the population, and I think to some degree that's one of them. But anyway, we're getting off topic. Um, yeah, I think that that he's got all the tools there, and I think he needs to try and be a bit more logical and a bit more clinical. And I've seen it. I've been watching Max for donkey's years, and I've seen this happen, and his emotions go up and down, up and down. It's unbelievable. We used to get these phases where he's literally the number one guy on the forum in terms of post count. His team look absolutely incredible. They're smashing everyone to pieces, and yeah, he's posting 7 times a day. And then all of a sudden, it's like God knows why, but he'd fall on his face, and the team would start losing, and he'd stop posting, and they'd lose more, and there'd just be a deathly silence. And I think he probably could have arrested that loss, that downward spiral in the past by not just not getting too emotional, and probably I think he probably withdrew from the game, fuck this game kind of thing. And whereas I think if he just took every game as it come, he probably could have got out of that tailspin. And every team every year normally, well, most of the time they get a bad spell, and I think. you get tested as a GM, and you've got to work through it. So I think if Max can work through the bad spell, because he's bound to get one, even if it's a 2-game losing streak, then that could be the key for them.
Okay. I'm guessing you're going to predict that he goes about 11-5 and wins the division again.
I think they'll win the division,
Maybe
and
12 and 4.
it'll come down to a dice roll in the playoffs. Ultimately, that's the truth of the matter, isn't it? They'll be a good, strong team, and my guess is it comes down to the dice. Nobody can predict the roll of the dice in the playoffs, but I think they probably have the best chance for me of beating the Eagles this year.
I mean, they got the best defense in the division, or in the conference rather. Maybe
Yeah,
maybe in
yeah,
the league. They're right there with Rob's points against, and a very strong offense.
yeah. I think if Max can retain his focus, keep his focus, keep that level, that level line of thinking. I don't, I think that takes some real stopping, and it would just come down to the dice for me. Right, should we move on to your final pick?
Sure. I had the Colts as a dark horse. Sorry that they didn't win the division and go to the playoffs and look really good. But I thought they had a lot of talent on this team, um, particularly the receiving options. I mean, they've got this 1.2 guy, really good
Wow.
receiver. They got another 1.2 guy, absolutely amazing receiver. And having this
Wow.
guy as a third option is incredible. So, like, right off the bat, their offense has tons of firepower. They always have a good running game, right? Look at this run. Even though this running back came from the Steelers, he's very good,
That's some talent there, isn't it?
if a bit pricey. But yeah, and they've been giving it a go with Roman Smoot here. He's building up the cohesion. Finally got.
Yeah, he is. Yeah, and I like to see that. I like to see a team stick with the quarterback and press on. Okay, it hasn't been sunshine and rainbows, but he's a decent quarterback, and you help the guy, help him and improve the team around him.
Right.
I don't. I think you're throwing these guys out the door. I mean, I don't. I think most of the time it's not justified really. So I think it's a good thing that he stuck with him, and every year that ticks by, he gets more cohesion.
Yeah, and
But
like
yeah, you are going to be getting impatient though, aren't you? When you've got, you have got the talent they've got. You want to see. You must be rolling in with some expectations.
yeah, and I think he should have higher expectations for this year. He's got that interior line that you talked about with Minnesota. He's got studs. He's got a really good right tackle, and his left tackle, he performed really well, 42% blocking, but he went ahead and spent a high pick on a left tackle who's going to be an upgrade. If not this year, then next. And
Yeah,
he's got
he's dumb, isn't he? The Tyner, he's got intelligence of 5, so I think I
yeah,
can I can certainly see why he made that pick. So I would have done the same thing.
yeah. Uh,
Yeah,
you know,
yeah. I love this. I love the look of this team. It looks great.
he's got secondary looks pretty good, 60s, 50s, 60. You could maybe use
Weakness on
one
defense,
more
though.
DB.
Yeah,
He brought in a good linebacker here, and yeah, the defense doesn't look amazing, but he's got so much happening for him on offense that I have to expect that he's not going to be one of the worst scoring teams in the league next year. And even despite what we see on defense, he's a top 10 defense, despite giving up yards, right? It's because
mm.
he's got the turnover differential. He's not turning the ball over. Very very low on the turnover side.
I would like to see him feed that super stud. He only gave him 127 targets last year. I'd like to see 200. You know, he played every game. I'd want to see 200 targets to that guy. Really, he's that good, isn't he? I
I
know he's
mean,
got great wide receivers all over the place,
I
but
think
maybe 180. I'd like to see. I mean, he's throwing the ball more to the to Cortez, 164 to Cortez. I think you've got to ride your horses sometimes, haven't you?
yeah, that's a room for improvement, absolutely, right? He can be getting Spurgeon the ball more.
Yeah,
Cortez looks like he's maybe a little bit over targeted, getting sub 6 yards a target.
yeah,
And you flip those, you add even a little bit, maybe more dispersion, and that's going to help your offense a lot. Like
I think so.
there's no reason he should be one of the worst offenses in the league. Um,
Mm.
so I think that's a big room for improvement.
Yeah, I mean, their running back, he got a hell of a load. He's been pushing up around 400 attempts last few years.
Yeah, and I'm surprised to see that they're not running it more. They're actually middle of the pack for rush attempts. They're leaning into the pass a little bit more with that all that talent there.
Mm.
I'm used to them running it first.
Yeah, it's interesting. So let's have a little look and see him. Yeah, penalty count. Youch, second. So he had the second most penalties in the league.
Yeah, that's gonna hurt.
That's going to hurt. So that's why you're getting rid of that left tackle. You know, you need to get rid of that guy, 100%. Which it looks like he's pretty much done. So I think that's a good move. Just looking at the special teams. Yeah, they're not bad. They're not bad. Hmm. Yeah, I mean that front seven is not good though, is it?
No, the front seven needs work. Um, it's a lot of young guys, right? So I'm thinking his cohesion will be low. But he somehow did quite well with his defense last year. Like you can't argue with 20 points a game.
No.
Like 80% of the league would love to be giving up 20 points a game.
Yeah, but again, it comes back to maybe the division isn't the strongest, right? Is that harsh?
Well, the division didn't score a lot of points, so that's true. Um, the division is just eyeballing it, probably the lowest scoring division in the league.
I think quite often, you look at these defenses, and it's more to do with the quality of the opposition they faced than the actual defense itself.
Well,
You know how
how do you
things.
want to judge a defense?
It's
Just by
very
the
very complex. You could spend all night talking about one defense. To be honest with you, I mean, breaking down. You need to break down the quality of their opposition in real depth, and as I say, I do genuinely think. I mean, you can only look at the ratings of the players and the quality of the players, can't you? And and look at that and say, well, they don't look very good, but they did perform well.
they did, and you'd have to find an
Maybe
explanation for
they're
that. But
Yeah. My explanation is that they played weaker offenses than average, but I might be
when you
wrong.
look at some rosters and some GMs, I feel like a common refrain sometimes is, well, so and so GM is always seems to always get more out of his players than their overalls.
Yeah,
Is that fair?
yeah.
I'm whether or
So I
not that's
mean,
true. Like I do think that is a belief.
are you saying that you think that Andrew is a good defensive GM, but not a very good offensive GM?
I'm not applying that to Andrew. I'm just saying that when you see conversations on the forum, like the number one player that jumps out to me, to my memory, that I associate this with is Julio, where people talk about how his rosters don't seem elite, but he seems to get a lot out of them. I'm not saying
Yeah,
he's
and
the only one who
I
does this, or there aren't other people who do that. Like I just feel like I've read people say that.
yeah, and I think if you dig deeper, you can see sometimes why, and it's because like he's usually in the bottom three of penalties, things like that. So he may have these 45 rated guys, but they probably have intelligence of 90. So they're not really 45 rated guys. They're more like 57s or something in real terms because they're so uber smart. And you can have a guy like this offensive lineman who's a 52 and he's probably really like a 32. He's a complete liability. And that's my line of thinking. It goes back to the start of the video when we were talking about the Eagles tackle and why I'd rather have the guy that he cut than the guy that he drafted. But I think Julio's angles are a benefit to him.
All right, so it looks like the Colts could stand to improve on their pass rush. Looking at their front seven, I don't see a lot of guys who can generate a rush. That's
No, it's a glaring. The front seven is a glaring weakness. I mean, but everybody's got weaknesses somewhere. Most teams, anyway, not everybody. Most teams have got weaknesses
right,
somewhere.
especially if
I
you're picking
mean,
a dark horse, a team that isn't necessarily
an
supposed to
American dark horse
win
as opposed to a
13 or
British one.
12 games. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. The American dark horse is bound to have a weakness.
Yeah, it's true.
Right, I'm googling it. Googling it. Is it just that I never actually knew what dark horse meant? But then Google is an American company,
It,
so you're going to get an
are they?
American
Are
meaning,
they?
aren't
They
you?
probably pay taxes over there.
Unexpected. No, they don't. It's a big problem over here. They don't. They're like, I don't know what they do, but I think Ireland have got something to do with it. I don't think they do pay tax in the UK, and everyone's pissed off about it. Um, yeah, just an unexpected winner.
Okay.
So I mean, for me, the teams I picked are unexpected winners.
Well, we'll let the the listeners decide who's who understands this phrase. Maybe it's neither of us. Um,
It's probably you.
all right. Well, I think that was the last team I had.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a team that you would want. He's going to have expect. He's not going to be happy if he wins 6 games again. That's for sure. And I think they've got a shot at winning the division. I'm not saying they're favourites, but I genuinely think they've got a good shot of going. Turning things right around and getting it done. But I do sort of look at gaps on this team and said, are you telling me that you couldn't have got more in free agency? I mean,
I mean, he's out of money, right? So I don't know where he
well,
spent
yeah,
it,
but you can
but
still get useless. Yeah, you still get players that aren't useless for next to nothing, can't you? Like players that are half decent. I mean, these guys are pretty bad defensive ends and that. I don't know. I would have thought. I mean, this guy Burnett, the starting defensive end, he's horrific. He's got an intelligence of 2. I mean, you could go out there now and get a better player than him. Let me just back that up and make sure I'm not talking shit.
we'll find out.
Well, he's 325 pounds, so he's overweight. He's overweight. He's dumb as hell. 3-4 defensive end. Right, here we go. The only trouble is they are a little bit unrealistic. These guys sometimes, aren't they? I still asking for 3 million even now.
And I'm not saying a ton of talent here. Like here's a run
I'm
stuffer.
not either.
That's not gonna help rush the passer though.
I mean, he got. Yeah, I mean, I'm not seeing a ton of talent here either, to be honest with you.
No,
I
there's
mean,
not.
Jeffries
Here's
is
this guy. Go
respectable.
go grab Gerald Wagner. This guy should not be a free agent. Somebody needs a situational pass rusher. Doesn't really matter what scheme you're in. This guy can rush the passer.
Yeah,
If you got 4
yeah.
million sitting around and you'd like to sack
What
a
are these guys
quarterback,
asking? What are they doing? Asking for 4 million at this point?
staying unemployed, I guess.
Wow, it's crazy, isn't it? It's crazy. Just trying to look who we picked up this year and what we paid for them. I mean, it just seems a lot, doesn't it, for guys that are? I can understand You know, his cap is obviously tight.
Yeah, I mean, like, how? Let me ask you this: how much money do you think you need to going into a season in free cap room?
Well, if you're the Steelers, minus 60 million.
Sorry, I mean like going into like regular season week one.
Well, you can.
After the off season, like going into week one, should you be at, like $50,000 and you think I've done this just absolutely perfectly, or do you think no, I need a little bit of a buffer in case somebody gets hurt and I need to bring in somebody else?
I like to have a little bit of buffer personally. You never know who's going to get cut that you might want to grab. You know, I personally, no, I don't want too much. You know, I don't need a whole bunch. But yeah, I mean, coming back to my point, I mean, I got a guy like Gomez, my linebacker, and it's all about me, isn't it? I get
Usually.
people get so pissed off with those, but um, so I got this guy Gomez. I mean, he's basically a veteran minimum salary, and these sort of players were available throughout free agency. I just picked this guy up, and his intelligence is 93. You know, I'm not going to ask him to rush the passer, and he's only going to wander on in short yardage situations. But you know, he's not horrible, is he? For what I'm going to ask him to do, he's 44 rated, and I got him for veteran minimum, and that is doable. And I think that's probably what the Colts could have done with doing, really.
Yeah,
You know,
I
some of the
mean,
guys.
there's not they need help on the front seven. I don't know that there's seven guys out there like Clyde Gomez, but they are there for and you said this guy's going to walk on short yardage. Like, how much is that going to affect a defense?
I mean, some of the yeah, no, it's not. It's
He's
just a
got
gap
zero
filler, isn't
endurance.
it?
He can't.
Okay. Let's go with Mallory, strong side linebacker. I mean, this guy was an undrafted free agent. I've had quite a few of these guys, to be honest with you. Mallory, the linebacker, he's a good player.
Well, this
Um,
guy's a great player, and for the people who can find good
for
players in
nothing.
undrafted free agency, then that's a huge
Yeah.
advantage.
So I
Like,
grabbed him for nothing. Norton is a cornerback. I grabbed him for nothing. Again, he's intelligent. He's not awesome, but one day he'll be a decent nickel corner.
well, who
I mean,
cut this guy?
I don't know.
Fucking idiots.
I mean, my offensive line. I mean, to be honest, you went through my entire team. They're just full of undrafted free agents. Um, you know, my offensive line is just full of rejects, completely full of rejects. I just picked up
Well,
McLemore.
you talked about your offensive line previously, like you're able to get
I'd get
guys
them
that
for
other
nothing.
teams don't want
Yeah,
because they're so
no, they don't
one-dimensional.
want them. Lemore, I just picked up Lemore. I've got like Lindy Logan Riley. I drafted in the seventh round. These
Yeah,
guys
but
are all super
that's just not going to
super
work for the
intelligent.
Colts. They need the guys that can run and
Mm,
pass block.
yeah, I understand
So
that.
that's not going to work for 99% of the teams, right?
Fair comment. Fair comment. But I do think there is there. You know, if you're looking at every single stage, there are Mallory's about, and you know, getting him on the cheap. I'm not saying you have to spend a lot of money either. I think if you keep looking, as a that my weak side linebacker, Brash or whatever you call it. I mean, again, he's a prototype. Have you got him? That
Yeah.
guy. Yeah, he's a prototype weak side 3-4 pass rushing linebacker. He's a little bit light, but he's gonna, when he's fully developed, he's gonna do what I want him to do. And again, I got him for bugger all, and
You
he's
got him super
smart.
cheap. Does this, am I reading this right? That you got him in stage one of free agency?
I don't know when I got him, to be
Oh, you
honest with
got him
you.
in last regular season. You signed him for $5 million in the regular season.
Did I?
Yeah, and then so he was a
Yeah.
restricted free agent for you that you re-signed this year.
2.89 million over.
Right, but you paid
No, oh
five
yeah,
million
five
for
over
the
one.
right.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah.
So
So I
like,
grabbed him. I had a bit of
that's
cap.
you having
Yeah,
an eye on the league and having some free cap
yeah,
room to grab somebody. And this is
yeah.
looks like a smart guy to have grabbed.
But that's not quite as good because I did have to spend the money to get him.
Right.
But yeah, I just think if you dig, I mean, Bart James, that was another guy, my punt returner,
What position is he?
undrafted. He's a strong safety, but he's more of a punt returner. He's not really a strong safety.
I just have to know where to find him.
Yeah, strong safety. So I mean, again, where did I get this guy and what did I pay for him?
You got him in late free agency, so you got him as an undrafted free agent.
Yeah, so for pretty much zero, roughly speaking.
Yeah.
Yeah, 96 intelligence. You know, probably in the top three punt returners in the league for zero.
Yeah, that's a quality find.
Yeah, so this is how I've been having to play since I joined the league. So I've got no draft pick, so I have to just be like looking in every corner. And getting back to the Colts, I wonder, you know, if that front seven could have looked a little bit better.
Yeah, it could have. I think, I mean, with the way it looks, like these are probably undrafted guys, right? So like he's trying to do what you said. He's trying to grab some guys on the cheap.
Yeah,
These particular guys just didn't hit, right? He's got
yeah.
multiple undrafted guys, so this guy doesn't actually doesn't look bad. Um,
But he's got to cut Burnett. He's got to get rid of Burnett.
well, we can
Easy.
we can come back and see if Burnett's still on the roster on a later
He needs
video,
to
but
go.
we'll see if he heeds your advice.
He must go. It's one of the worst players I've ever seen. Yeah, we'll see. We'll see. But yeah, it's just surprising these guys are out there asking for 4 million. Delusional.
I mean, I assume that's why he's grabbing all these undrafted guys is because he's out of money.
Yeah. Yeah, this is the problem. It's you know, yeah, he's got like Schwartz who's not signed yet. He's got that kicker. So I mean, yeah, he's tight. He's probably could franchise the kicker next year. Schwartz
I,
might have to let him go. He's got a lot of people that need signing next off season as well. See, yeah. Oh, it's a hard world, isn't it? But it'd be interesting to see how they go.
yeah.
I don't expect anybody to still be listening by now. We've been going an hour and 40 minutes, so I
Oh,
guess we better wind it up.
all right, that sounds good. Well, thanks for coming on.
Yeah, yeah. It's been a pleasure, man. As always, really.